All right, YouTube, let's sit back and have a moment of silence for my boy. My boy's been trying to figure out how to cut his own hair, so he's been practicing on himself, and he came in to me with this today, asking if I could go ahead and fix him up. And to start this restoration, I'm going in with my Andis Masters, lever completely open, and I'm going up about a whole inch, so that way I'm giving myself enough space to blend out. So on his left side of his head, his hair naturally lays going forward. So just to make sure I'm hitting all those hairs, I'm going to be combing the hair how it naturally lays, and then I'm going to be cutting against the grain. For my second panel, I got my one guard on, lever open still, and I'm going up another inch, still giving myself that room to blend into the top. And again, on this side, I'm gonna be going kind of diagonal just to make sure I'm hitting those hairs correctly. And when he cut his own hair, he already hit it with a 1, but I'm still gonna go over it with my one guard still open, and I'm going with the grain just to make sure everything's even. And when it comes to wavers, you always wanna make sure that you're going with the grain, especially on a smaller guard, so that way, because if you go against the grain, you're gonna run the possibility of patching yourself or your client. Now we're starting the process on fading down, and that main line you can see in his head, we're gonna put on my my 0 guard or your 0.5 guard if you're running like a Waz or a Babless. So I'm gonna be having my 0.5 or 0 guard on, and I'm gonna be hitting that line, and I'm gonna be starting below the line, and I'll flick to the line, and my lever is gonna be at a halfway position on this as well. And right here, you could already see that line starting to blend out to the top. So I kind of have I'd say a process of when it comes to fading. You'll see it here, or throughout the clip, where it's just kind of like a 1-2 flick motion, 1-2 flick, 1-2 flick. It's just constantly me just going over the same spot. More than once, it's just gonna take a couple passes just to make sure that you're getting every hair down to the true length you're trying to get it to. And again, with this side of the head, with it laying forward, it's laying, the hair pattern's laying different than this side than it is the other. I'm going to be going at that diagonal angle again, just to make sure that I'm going against the grain. When it comes to cutting, you're going to have those clients where one side of the head, the hair will, grow in a different direction than the other side would. So it's just attention to detail, just paying attention to your client and how their hair lays and what works best for their hair. Around his parietal ridge, I'm still seeing a little bit of weight. So, just to try to get that weight knocked down, I got my 0 guard still on, lever open, and I'm just going with the grain just to try to knock that that weight and darkness down. And right here, when I turned him in the chair, I realized that when he was cutting his own hair, he put that left side, his bald line on the left side, a lot higher than he did on his right side. So to try to go ahead and correct that, I'm gonna go in with my clipper lever fully closed, and I'm just gonna bring up the bald line on that side just to match the other side. Now to bring the last line out and fade it into the rest of the fade, I'm gonna be using a 3-step process with no guard. It's gonna be closed, halfway open, and then fully open. And I have the steps in the video so you guys can see when I'm closing or when I'm opening my lever. But right now I got my lever completely closed, and I'm starting below that line, and I am going to be flicking up towards that line. Now I have my lever halfway, and it's the same process, starting below the line, working to the line. Now to connect everything, or mostly everything, we're gonna have the blade fully open, and mostly I'm just gonna use the corner of my blade with this step. And so it's the same process, just using corners, and I'm gonna be, again, just flicking up, starting below the line again and flicking to that line. And during that process, you see that I kind of created another line above that, but that's all right, it's nothing we can't handle. So if that happens with you, all you got to do is, detail work, put your 0 guard or your 0.5 guard and just flick that line out. If you're still seeing dark spots after hitting it with that half guard, so what I do is I'll usually take off the guard and open up the lever completely, and I'll just hit it with my corners, and I'm just making sure that I'm getting in those tight spots that are dark. Like as you can see right there, it's kind of a dark spot, so I'm just using my corners and just thinning it out. I'm using my clippers almost as a thinning shear. Now we're just going to be repeating those same 3 steps that we did on the right side of his head, to the back and to the left, and it's going to be closed, halfway open, and then fully open. And I'll still have the steps put in this video so you guys can follow along, whether my lever is closed, halfway, or open. Now I'm just coming back in with my zero guard, and I'm just doing detail work, taking out the darker spots or the darker areas just to make sure that that transition's a lot smoother. Fading in the beard is the same process. You give yourself about an inch, inch and a half with the blade open, and then you just kind of start closing it the higher you go up. But in this scenario, he ended up trying to do his beard as well, lining it up, and he took his left side a lot lower than he did his right side. So to try to mitigate that, I'm like kind of fading it from usually where the beard line would be lined up at. I'm fading that and going downwards so that way it kind of matches on both sides. Now, for the stressful part is fixing his hairline. You can see where he kind of took it up a little higher on his left side than he did the right side. We're gonna have to like push it back, not by much, but just enough to where it evens out. So I went ahead and sprayed it down, hairspray, just to get everything laid out and frozen in place. For his hairline or his lineup, I'm gonna be punching in the vertical bars first, so that way when I start doing the hairline or the lineup, I have a reference point to meet at. I'll be starting from the middle, then I'll just walk it all the way down to the vertical bar on the left side and repeating the same process on the right. Now that we got his vertical bars punched in, we're gonna start in the middle of his hairline with a trimmer, and we're just gonna tap, pull, and just walk the trimmer all the way to the vertical bar. All right, YouTube, this is how my boy came in, asking if I could hook it up for him. And this is how my boy's leaving. If y'all like this video, please leave a like or a comment. And get at me on Instagram at Dirty Blends.